When it comes to recent volcanic eruptions, there's probably no other event that had as big of an impact on our planet and its inhabitants as the one at Yellowstone National Park. After all, it is the largest active volcano in the world. And so far in history, it has already caused some pretty dramatic events. In fact, when we talk about the most explosive eruptions ever recorded, it ranks number 1, with the largest caldera-forming eruption being 640,000 years ago and the most recent major eruption being 600 years before today. However, scientists recently made a discovery that revealed a much more grim reality for anyone living near the volcano. They found evidence of an eruption that was not only much more recent than previously thought, but it was also much more deadly. The details are scary, so let's jump right into it. What we missed. A new study published in the journal Quaternary Science Reviews reveals that we may have missed a volcanic eruption at Yellowstone National Park that occurred less than 1,000 years ago. It would be considered a major event because it released at least 37 cubic miles of material or 150 cubic kilometers of ash, pumice, and other debris. For context, that is 10 times more than the Mount Pinatubo eruption in the Philippines in 1991. The authors of the research say that this eruption could have blanketed much of the western United States and even parts of Canada and Mexico in ash. They reached this conclusion after studying sediments from the Yellowstone caldera. This is the large crater-like structure that forms when magma from the supervolcano chambers is emptied out during an eruption. Scientists analyzed layers of ash deposited during past eruptions at different points in time. By studying these layers, they were able to get a better sense of how frequently and how violently the volcano erupted in the past. And their findings were surprising. One of the biggest surprises came from radiocarbon dating, which revealed organic material from the most recent eruption was dated to around the year 1280 AD. That would mean that this eruption happened just 742 years before today. For comparison, the last confirmed eruption of the supervolcano was 7,000 years ago. This discovery suggested that the time between eruptions may have shrunk significantly from thousands of years to just over half a century. In addition, they found that the magnitude of the eruption was much greater than previously assumed. Yellowstone National Park covers an area of over 2.2 million acres in the northwest corner of the United States. The park encompasses the Yellowstone caldera, also known as the Yellowstone supervolcano. It is home to a variety of geothermal features such as geysers and hot springs. Perhaps the most famous geyser is Old Faithful, which erupts approximately every 90 minutes. It is also home to a diverse range of wildlife, including bison, bears, wolves, and elk. Visitors can explore the park's vast wilderness through hiking trails, campgrounds, and scenic drives. The park has numerous lakes, rivers, and streams that provide opportunities for fishing and boating. There are also several historic buildings and sites within the park, including the Old Faithful Inn and the Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel. As you can imagine, the discovery of a much more recent and much more violent eruption than previously believed poses quite a risk to those living in the area. Let's take a look at what might happen should the volcano erupt again. Potential impact. Should the Yellowstone supervolcano erupt today, it would have devastating consequences. Ash and debris would cover much of the western United States and parts of Canada and Mexico. Cities like Boise, Idaho, Salt Lake City, Utah, Denver, Colorado, Rapid City, South Dakota, and even Phoenix, Arizona would be impacted. Air travel would be impossible due to the ash cloud, and the U.S. would enter into a volcanic winter. Global temperatures would drop by 1 to 2 degrees Celsius. Crop yields would decrease worldwide, leading to food shortages. There would be significant loss of life and widespread panic. So let's take a closer look at each of these impacts, starting with crop yields. According to the USGS, an eruption of this magnitude would eject between 1,000 and 5,000 cubic kilometers of ash and pumice into the atmosphere. The amount of sulfur dioxide gas injected into the atmosphere could reach up to 1 million tons. All of this material would reflect sunlight back into space, cooling the Earth's surface. During the summer of 1816, Mount Tambora in Indonesia erupted and ejected 160 cubic miles of material into the atmosphere. This caused temperatures to plummet by an average of 2.2 degrees Celsius below normal worldwide. Food shortages and disease resulted in an estimated 100,000 deaths. A similar situation would likely occur if the Yellowstone supervolcano were to erupt today. As far as air travel goes, you can ask any airline pilot and they will tell you that flying through volcanic ash clouds is extremely dangerous. Volcanic ash is made up of tiny pieces of rock and glass, and can cause serious damage to aircraft engines. In 1980, Mount St. Helens in Washington erupted and sent ash 12 miles into the air. The eruption caused the cancellation of thousands of flights and stranded hundreds of thousands of travelers. The economic impact of the Mount St. Helens eruption on the airline industry alone was estimated to be over $100 million. If the Yellowstone supervolcano were to erupt today, it is likely that air traffic would be grounded for weeks or even months. On June 24, 1982, a Boeing 727 jetliner flew through an ash cloud from the Mount Galunggung volcano in Indonesia. All 3 engines failed, and the pilots were forced to make an emergency landing. And finally, let's discuss loss of life. The impact of the eruption itself would depend on the location of the event. If the eruption were to occur in the center of the caldera, then the immediate impact would be relatively localized. However, if the eruption were to occur further north or south along the continental magma chamber, then the impact would be much more widespread. In fact, a study published in the journal Nature in 2016 found that an eruption of the northern lobe of the magma chamber would result in a much larger eruption than one from the southern lobe. This is because the northern lobe is closer to the surface and has a shallower magma chamber. In this scenario, the eruption column would reach an altitude of 100 kilometers and deposit ash over a much larger area. The eruption would also produce pyroclastic flows that would travel down the valleys of the surrounding mountains, causing widespread destruction. What's being done about it? It's important to remember that the Yellowstone supervolcano has been dormant for thousands of years, and there is no evidence to suggest that it is due to erupt anytime soon. However, it is possible that a small eruption could occur at any time. Scientists are constantly monitoring the volcano for any signs of activity. If an eruption were to occur, the government has plans in place to evacuate the surrounding areas and provide assistance to those affected by the disaster. In addition, scientists are working on ways to better predict volcanic eruptions. By studying the history of the Yellowstone supervolcano, scientists hope to learn more about how these events occur and how to better predict them in the future. This knowledge could help save lives and property in the event of a future eruption. As for now, though, we can rest easy knowing that the Yellowstone supervolcano is not due to erupt anytime soon. However, it is important to remember that anything can happen, and we should always be prepared for the unexpected. What do you think? Is this something that keeps you up at night? Comment below. Also be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss another thrilling episode. See you next time.